Hello, myself Pulkit, and today we are going to talk about VPC Virtual Private Cloud on AWS. Right. So first we need to log into our AWS console, and once you have logged in, you will be on the dashboard page of your AWS console. Right. So this is our console home, and from this console home, we need to search for VPC. So VPC Virtual Private Cloud. So now after searching and clicking on it, we are on the dashboard of our VPC, right? So this is our VPC dashboard, and here we can see we have the ability to create a VPC. We have the ability to see our VPC, subnets, route table, internet gateways, and many more. So first things first, let us understand about VPC. So if we talk about VPC, general definition for VPC is a private network, right? A private network isolated within the AWS cloud where you can launch and manage your resources securely, right? Now, an AWS private, an AWS virtual private network is like our own private secure space on the internet, which is provided to us by the AWS, right? Where we can run our application, we can store our data, and we can control who can access them, right? After that, if just imagine a VPC as a house you build on a piece of land, and that piece of land is nothing but the internet, right? So just like how we decide the number of rooms and the security measures, and those security measures are nothing but the doors, rooms, and the locks that we have in that house, right? So what we can do is we can understand a VPC in a manner that we decide how many subnets will be there on which our application will be running, right? We can manage the security settings, and in the security settings we have the firewall and access rules, right, to keep our data safe. We can also manage who can access our VPC, right? We have those access permissions too. If we talk about a simple example on VPC, then we can say that we have a web application launched, right? So we have launched a web application, and what we can do is we can create a VPC for our application. What that VPC is doing, it is creating a private space on AWS for us, right? We have created a web application for us, and we need a private space for it. So we have created a VPC for that. In that case, we have created a VPC. So inside that VPC, we created two subnets, right? So one subnet is holding the web servers, and the another subnet is holding the database servers, right? So what the web servers are, they are the public facing part of our application, and what the database servers are, these are the private and the only accessible, and they are only accessible by our web servers, right? So what else we can do here is we can also set up the security group. So what are these security groups? These security groups are like the walls and the doors which we have in the house, right? So similarly, we can say that the security group are used to control what traffic is allowed into each subnet. For example, the web servers, right? These web servers are are the public facing part of our for the public facing part of our application, right? So these web servers are allowed from the internet, and they are allowed to access the internet. But the database servers, because they are private, so they are only allowed to access the web servers. Only through the web servers we can access these databases. The internet cannot access the database servers because they are private in nature. So so I believe this VPC might be clear to you all. Let us move ahead, and we'll start by creating a VPC. So here we have two methods, or you can say some two methods, right? We have two methods of creating this VPC. We can create directly here and the create VPC icon, and we'll be on this page, right? So Or what we can do is we can click either on this icon or in this your VPC icon. Will be on the same page, which is this, which is your VPC page. Here in this your VPC page, we can see that we have a default VPC with us. So this default VPC is provided by AWS by default, and this default VPC is present in every region of this AWS, right? On this on this Amazon Web Services, each and every region have this default VPC. So currently we are in Mumbai region and we'll be creating a VPC in this Mumbai region only. So let's start by clicking on this create VPC icon. So here on this create a VPC page, we have two options to create a VPC. So first option is simple. The first option is very simple, VPC and only. Here we just need to give the name tag for our VPC. Then we have to specify the IPv4 CIDR block here, and then we just need to keep the tenants to default, and we just create our VPC, right? So this is a simpler method and the basic approach to create a VPC. The other approach we have is VPC and more. So in this VPC and more, you can see a visual representation of what resources that are going to create using this particular option, right? So if so, you can see there is a VPC which is going to be launched in this Mumbai region. We'll have four subnets, right? And first will be in AP South 1, and the second will be in AP South 1B. So what happens is we have selected two availability zones. First is 1A and the other one is 1B, right? And then what will happen, we have two subnets that will be creating in this 1A, and the two subnets will be creating in 1B, public subnet and a private subnet, respectively, in the second region. And we have three route tables which will be creating on the basis of this diagram, which you can understand, and we'll have two network connection here, right? So this VPC and more option, what it is doing is it is providing us a more flexible way to create each and every resource in a on a single click, right? Right. But we'll be focusing mainly on this VPC and only option. So first we need to give it a name. So let's give it a name, demo VPC, right? And then we need to provide IPv4 CIDR block. So for this IPv4 CIDR block, we can give 192.168.0.0/24. So this is our IPv4 CIDR block, and in this IPv4 CIDR block, we'll have 256 IP addresses, right? And this will have 256 IP addresses. So what is this CIDR? Right, so you will be thinking that what is this CIDR? So basically this CIDR is a block, right? So CIDR stands for classless inter-domain routing, right? It is a way to define and manage IP addresses in a more flexible and efficient manner, right? So what happens is we have blocks defined in CIDR, and in AWS, the CIDR block size is between 16 to 28. So what happens is between between these blocks, we can provide any number of blocks we want. We just need to specify an IP address like we did here. With in our case, the IP address is 192.168.0.0. /24 is this /24 is our CIDR block which we have defined here. So what happens is if we want to calculate the CIDR block for this particular block, what we'll do is in IPv4 addresses, right? In IPv4 addresses there are 32 bits, right? So not more than 32 bits, only 32 bits. So what happens is in on those 32 bits we apply a basic mathematics, right? So like we have here we have chosen 24 as our CIDR block. So what we'll do is we'll subtract this 24 from 32, right? So what we'll get, we'll get 8 as our answer, After subtracting 24 from 32, we'll have 8 as our answer. So now the formula says that when you want to calculate the the total number of IP addresses, you have a formula which is 2 to the power n. So this the value which we have get by subtracting our CIDR block with that 32. So we had the value 8. So that 8 is the value of n, right? So when we'll put that value of n in the formula, which is 2 to the power 8 now, so we'll have 256 addresses, right? Similarly, if we have chosen any other CIDR block, then we'll have a more IP addresses or we'll have low IP addresses. Like if we have chosen the CIDR block, let's suppose 16, then when we'll subtract 16 from 32, what will happen is we'll get 16 as our answer, and then we'll put that 16 into the formula. So we'll have 2 to the power 16, which will be equal to 65,600. Sorry, just a minute. I think I forgot about that. Yes. 65,536 IP addresses, total number of IP addresses that we'll have, right? So higher the block number is, the lower IP addresses you'll have. Or let me show you the representation, right? Yeah, here. And this VPC and more option, you can see that here we have this IPv4 CIDR block. So here we have the block is equal to 16. So what happens is we have this many number of IP addresses, right? So we can increase. If we start increasing, we cannot go below 16, we can go above 16. So if we go to 17, then we have 32,000 IPs. Similarly, if we increase this number, then the IP addresses will we start to increase, right? So we have chosen 24, right? So in 24 we have 256 IPs, right? So now moving forward, what we need to do is we just need to click on this create VPC option, and our VPC will be created, as you can see here, right? So we have our VPC created, right? Here is a resource map. Here is the resource map which you were seeing in the start of the video when we click on the VPC and more icon, right? So currently we do not have any subnet, but we have a route table. From where this route table we got this route table from this demo VPC. How? Because whenever we create a VPC, a route table gets created by default because it is the main route table for our VPC. We can create as many route table as we want, and we can attach those route table to our VPC, and we can choose those route table to be public, to be private, whatever we want, right? But as of now, we just have a single route table, right? We'll be talking about route tables soon. What are these route tables? But first, we need to talk about subnets. What are subnets, right? So to have a better understanding of subnets, first we need to go to this subnet page. So the very first thing you'll see is you already have 3 subnets, and you might be thinking that how do we have these subnets already here? Like how? So the basic answer for this is that you have a default VPC already created, right? So these 3 subnets came from that VPC, right? So what you need to do is you just need to click on this filter by VPC and choose your demo VPC. Then you'll see that there is no matching resource found with your selected VPC, right? So what it means is that we do not have any subnet with us, right? So now let us understand what are these subnets, right? What are these subnets? So a subnet is like a smaller section within the large network, such as AWS or VPC, right? So VPC is a large network, right? Which you have seen, like like we selected a CIDR block of slash 24, right? So we have 256 IP addresses in our VPC. So think of VPC as the owner of that 256 IPs for now, right? So what happens is this subnet is like a smaller section within our VPC. So what happens is if we are dividing our VPC, which is our private space on AWS, right, into different areas, right, each with a specific purpose. So what I meant by saying that is, if we are creating some subnets in our VPC, we can choose our subnet to be private, to be public, right? So what the private subnet will do is, the private subnet will provide us the private connectivity to with our resources, and that private connectivity is not accessed by the internet, and it also cannot access the internet. But with that private subnet, we will also have a public subnet. What that public subnet will do, that public subnet will provide us the connectivity with the internet, and we can access our resource, we can access the internet from our resource are when connected with the public subnet, right? So what we'll be doing for this particular video is that we'll be creating a public subnet only, and we'll be attaching that public subnet with our VPC, right? So so you might be having a question that why these why use subnets, right? Why not use directly that why not directly use the IP addresses, why we are using subnets, right? So subnet helps us to organize and isolate different part of our applications, and it controls the traffic flow, it ensures the security, right? We can place our different resources into different subnets based on the needs. So if you do not get what I just said, just watch me creating a subnet and this. So what we can do is, first we need to choose a VPC, right? So we'll have two options. First option is default. We do not need to choose it. We have to choose our demo VPC. So we just click on this, and then we'll have some options with us. So first thing first, it will show us the app associated CIDR. So we have this CIDR block with us, which is this 192.168.0.0/24. Then we have our subnet settings with us. So what we can do is, first we are going to give our subnet a name. So let's say this is a public subnet. So we'll say it a public subnet 1, right? Then we have this availability zones. So we'll choose one availability zone, which is AP South 1A. And after choosing this, here you can see that it has already chosen the block. Now we just need to give a IP subnet block, right? So this block is used by the VPC, but we need to give another CIDR block for our subnet also. So for this, we can provide 192.168.1.0/26, right? So in this range we have 64 IPs. So based on this range, we'll have this, we'll have the IP addresses assigned to the resources which we'll be creating using this particular subnet. So what will happen is, when we'll create an EC2 instance, then I'll show you what this 64 IP means here, right? We can also create another subnet here by clicking on this add new subnet option, and here you can see that we have the option to create a new subnet again, right? So for the time being, we can remove that, and we can create our public subnet. Okay, so it is saying that CIDR address is not within the CIDR is not within CIDR range. Okay, sorry, this is my bad. What we can do is, we can change it from this to this, and then click on create subnet, right? So here you can see that our subnet has been created. We have a subnet ID, and currently it is not associated with our route table, so we need to associate it to the route table so that it can access the internet also. So what we need to do is we need to go to the route tables as we have filtered our demo VPC. Okay, just a minute. Right, so we have two VPC. So what happened is that we have not refreshed the whole page right as of now, so we were not able to see the route table. So now if I filter it by our demo VPC, then we have the route table. So what you need to do is you need to select this route table. Now, after selecting this route table, what we need to do is we need to go to this subnet association. We need to click on edit subnet association, and then we need to choose our public subnet and then click on the save association option. And now we can say that our subnet is associated with our route table and our route table is associated with our VPC. Now there is one thing left before we go to before we jump on to EC2 and create our first resources. So what we need to do is we need to create an internet gateway. Now you'll be thinking what this internet gateway is. So this internet gateway allow us to connect our resources to the internet. If we do not have the internet gateway, then we have the private connectivity, right? So this internet gateway allows our VPC to reach out to the internet and can work with the internet, right? So what we'll be doing, we'll be clicking on this create internet gateway option. So what we can do is we can first we need to give it a name. So just give it a simple name. Demo IGW. IGW means internet gateway. GW means gateway. So now just click on create internet gateway. Now what happens is whenever you create a basic internet gateway, it is not always attached with your VPC. So you need to attach it to your VPC, right? So you can either do it by clicking on this actions button, or you can see that that AWS wants you to attach it to a VPC, or it is of no use, right? So just click on attach VPC. You need to select your demo VPC. So now here you might be thinking that why only demo VPC, why not the default VPC option? So, so this is because the default VPC is already connected with an internet gateway, right? So that is why we do not see here the default VPC option. So the only VPC available for this internet gateway is the demo VPC, right? So now we'll select our VPC and then we'll click on this attach internet gateway option. Now here you can see that our internet gateway is attached. So if you go to your VPC now, select your VPC, go to the resource map. So here you can see that you have your demo VPC, right? Just a minute. Yes. So here you can see that you have your demo VPC, you have a subnet, right? This subnet is associated with your route table, but your route table is currently not associated with your internet gateway. And why is it? Because we have not specified a route in our route table, which should be integrated with our internet gateway. So what I mean is go to route table, then go to routes. We need to click on edit routes, then we need to add a route, right? So we will be selecting this address. What this address is? This is an address which is used to specify everywhere, right? So this is globally accepted address which says that your internet gateway has the connectivity on the internet to everywhere. Now, what we need to do is in the target, in the destination, we have this 0.0.0/0, and in the target, we need to choose internet gateway. So here we can see this internet gateway option. We'll click on it. Then we'll have our demo internet gateway. We need to choose it, and then we need to click on save. So here you can see that in your routes, now you have two routes. First was a local route, right? Now, and the second route is your internet gateway route. Now, what you need to do is you need to go back to your VPC. Now, if you click on your resource map, you can see that your public subnet is connected to your route table, your main route table, and your main route table is now connected to the internet gateway. So here you can say that, or we can say that we have a proper connectivity of our VPC to create a resource. So now what we'll be doing is we'll be searching for EC2, right? So here we have EC2. If we click on this EC2 option, right? Just click on it. You will be on the dashboard of EC2. Right, so this is the dashboard of EC2. We have so many options here. We'll be discussing them later. Now we need to click on this instances slash bracket running option. So currently we have 0 running instances as of now. So now what I'll be doing is I'll be creating an instance. So for that, click on launch instance. Here, what I need to do is I need to give it a name. So let's say demo instance. Right, so we have specified a name to it. Now now for the simplicity of this video, for the simplicity of our video, I'll be choosing Amazon Linux for now. Right, I'll be showing you an instance based on Windows 2, but for now let's just choose Amazon Linux. And then the AMI which we are going to choose is this to 2023 AMI, and we'll be discussing about AMI later also. Now this is an option for instance type. So what is instance type? Currently we are choosing the free tier eligible instance, which is t2.micro. We have other instance type based on our requirement. We can choose our instance on based on higher memory and higher processor, right? So currently we are choosing this t2 micro. After that, we need to choose this key pair login. So key pair login is nothing but the security credential which you will be getting to connect your instance. So for the time being, we are choosing proceed without a key pair, right? Then we'll be moving to the network security, which are the main settings to connect our demo VPC with our instance which we are just creating. So for this, click on edit. Right, first we need to choose our VPC, which is demo VPC, right? So we have chosen our demo VPC. Then we have to choose our subnet. So we only have a single subnet, that is why it is already chosen by default. Now we need to click on enabling this enable public IP, right? So we need to enable the auto assign public IP option. After that, we have an option to create a security group, right? So for the security group, we'll be choosing this create a security group option. Then we'll be specifying a name for it, like demo sg1, and we'll be doing it for the same in the description too. Now here we have this security group rules. For this, for the time being, we are just choosing this ssh for now. And as of now, we have done all the setting which is required to create an instance. So what we'll be doing, we'll be creating on this launch instance option, and you can see that our instance is getting launch is initiated, and here you can see that our instance has been created, and this instance is sorry, this instance is in now the running state, right? You can see that our instance is in running state. Now what we can do is we can establish an activity with our instance on the internet, right? So let us wait until it gets security check initialized, right? So what we can do is we can click on refresh multiple times so that it gets initiated. So let me pause and come again when our initiation is complete. So after some time, you can see that our status check has been passed. So to connect our instance securely over the internet, what we can do is we can click on this connect option. And now here we have four options through which we can connect our instance. But for the time being, we are going to choose this EC2 instance connect option. And then we just need to scroll down, keep everything as it is to default, and just click on connect. Now you'll see that in some time you can see that we have connected onto our instance, which is Linux 2023. So here you can see that we are in our instance. So now in our instance, what we'll be doing is we'll be installing an Nginx server, and we'll be displaying it using our IP address, right? So first thing first, we need to install that Nginx web server. So for that, we need to run this command, which is sudo yum install ngi and nginx, right? So this has installed an Nginx server onto our instance. So what we need to do is we need to click on Y and press enter. So here you can see that the Nginx web server is being installed, and here you can see that our Nginx web server is installed on our instance. So what we can do is we can copy the public IP address of our instance and we can place it in a new tab and then press enter. So you will see that a web server is here, but currently you are seeing that the server cannot be reached. And why is it happening? Because in our security group we have not defined the port of HTTP. That is why it is not reaching out to our Nginx web server. So for that, what we can do is we can go to security tab. We can come back to our instance. We can go to the security tab in our instance, and then from here security groups, we can open our security group. Then in the inbound rules, you can see that only SSH rule has been attached with it. So what we can do is we can click on inbound rules. We can click on add rules. We can choose HTTP from everywhere, and then we can save our rules. So once our rule is saved, come back to this, come back to your IP address and refresh it multiple times. If there is no issue of caching and all, then your web server will be here in no time, right? Or what you can do is you can come back to your instance, go back to details, copy the address again, and then paste it in a new tab. Right. And if you are seeing again, then you can, what you can do is you can check whether your Nginx server is is started or not, or it is it in the, you know what we say it, in the stop stage. So sudo systemctl status Nginx. Sorry, my bad. Sudo systemctl status Nginx. So here you can see that our Nginx is currently disabled, right? That is why we cannot see the web server after that pasting the IP address. So what we need to do is we need to first enable it. So we just need to run this command, enable in Nginx, right? So this has enabled this Nginx web server. Now what we need to do is we need to start our Nginx web server. Now, if you check the status again, here you can see that our Nginx web server is running and it just started 2 seconds ago. Now come back to your IP address, refresh it multiple times. What happens is that Chrome browser stores the caching for your IP address. That is why sometimes it does not show proper. And also, what happens is you can remove this as HTTPS. So what happens is sometimes in your link, that HTTPS port of HTTPS appears automatically. So you need to remove that S from HTTP and just enter that command, and you can see that we have our Nginx web page, right? So with this, we can say that successfully we have completed our lab, and in this lab what we have done is we have covered VPC, what VPC is, we have covered what CIDR block is, we have covered our subnet, route tables, and what are the internet gateways, right? So, and after creating our VPC and establishing connection, we have created an EC2 instance, and on that EC2 instance we have installed in an Nginx web server, and we have also run that Nginx web server onto our instance, right? So by this we conclude our lab. Thank you very much for being with me.